She was my neighbor. But also my forbidden desire. I had lived in that apartment building for nearly 3 years, and in all that time, the unit across the hall had stayed empty. I never really thought about it, just another door in a city full of doors. But everything changed on a rainy Thursday evening when she arrived. I'd been leaning against my own doorway, sipping on a beer after a long day, watching the storm roll over the skyline. That's when I noticed her struggling with 2 heavy cardboard boxes, her umbrella flipping inside out in the wind. She was drenched, strands of hair sticking to her face as she muttered something under her breath. I should have minded my own business. That was what I was good at, staying out of other people's lives. But the sight of her, frazzled, beautiful, determined, pulled me in before I even realized I was moving. "Need a hand?" I asked. She turned, startled, her eyes locking onto mine. They were the kind of eyes that made you forget the rest of the world existed, soft green, rimmed with exhaustion but glowing underneath. "God, yes," she said, almost laughing at herself. "I think I miscalculated. These boxes are heavier than they look." I took them from her without a word, carried them up the short flight of stairs, and followed her to the apartment directly across from mine. When she pushed the door open, I caught a glimpse inside: bare walls, a couple of bags, the faint smell of fresh paint. A new start. "Thanks," she said, brushing wet strands of hair out of her face. "I'm Claire. Claire Bennett." "Daniel," I replied. "Welcome to the building." She smiled, and something inside me shifted. I didn't know then that this ordinary moment, the simple act of helping a neighbor, would become the start of everything. Over the next few weeks, Claire and I slipped into a rhythm. It started innocently enough. She'd knock on my door to borrow sugar or a corkscrew. I'd find excuses to ask if she needed help hanging shelves or fixing a leaky faucet. Little things, small favors, the kind of interactions that built a quiet bond. But every time she leaned over her balcony in the evenings, robe tied loosely, hair messy from the shower, and called out a casual "Hey, neighbor," it didn't feel innocent anymore. One night, she appeared at my door holding 2 glasses of wine. "I can't drink this whole bottle alone," she said, grinning. "Help me out?" I should have said no. I should have remembered the rumors I'd heard, the whispers from the building manager about her messy divorce, the fact that her ex-husband still showed up sometimes, shouting in the parking lot. But when she looked at me like that, when her laugh filled my apartment as we talked about everything from music to broken dreams, I knew I was already hooked. By midnight, we were sitting close on my couch, her knee brushing mine. My hand hovered over hers, testing the waters, and when she didn't pull away, it was like gravity yanked us together. The kiss was slow at first, hesitant, but then it deepened, urgent, desperate, the kind of kiss that made you forget who you were supposed to be. When we finally broke apart, she pressed her forehead against mine and whispered, "This is crazy." "Yeah," I murmured, pulling her closer. "But it feels right." From that night on, everything changed. Our doors stopped being boundaries. She'd slip into my apartment at midnight, barefoot, wearing nothing but a t-shirt. I'd wake up to the sound of her laughter drifting through thin walls, and I'd know she was mine, even if no one else could. It was dangerous, addictive, the kind of love that consumed you whole. But danger wasn't just in the secrecy. It came pounding on her door one Friday evening, when I heard shouting from the hallway. I opened my door to find her ex-husband standing there, face red, fists clenched. "Claire," he bellowed, pounding on her door. "You think you can just shut me out? You think you can hide from me?" My blood boiled. Without thinking, I stepped between them. "She doesn't want to see you. Leave." His eyes narrowed. "Who the hell are you?" "Her neighbor," I said evenly, though my fists were trembling. "Now get lost before I call the cops." He sneered, muttered something under his breath, and stormed off. But the damage was done. Claire opened her door, eyes wet, lips trembling. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing against my chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want you to get involved." "Don't apologize," I said firmly, holding her tighter. "You're not alone anymore. Not as long as I'm here." That night, we didn't just fall into bed. We fell deeper into each other, deeper into something that wasn't just lust anymore. I kissed her tears away, whispered promises I hadn't planned to make. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months. Our secret love turned into something undeniable. We cooked breakfast in each other's kitchens, left toothbrushes in each other's bathrooms. She filled my once empty apartment with warmth and laughter, with the smell of coffee in the mornings and soft music in the evenings. But the shadow of her past still lingered. Her ex kept showing up, leaving angry voicemails, trying to drag her back into the life she had escaped. One night, after another confrontation in the parking lot, Claire looked at me with fear in her eyes. "What if he never lets me go?" she whispered. I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to meet my gaze. "Then we fight back. Together." And we did. She filed for a restraining order. I stood by her in court, my hand steady on hers. When the order was granted, it felt like the first breath of freedom she'd had in years. From that moment, everything shifted. The fear faded, replaced by something stronger, hope. Our love wasn't a secret anymore. We walked through the city hand in hand, kissed in public, laughed without looking over our shoulders. One evening, months later, we stood on her balcony, watching the sunset paint the skyline gold. She leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. "You know," she whispered, "I never thought I'd find home again." I kissed her hair, breathing her in. "You did. Right across the hall." She turned, smiling through tears, and kissed me like it was the first time all over again, soft, bold, and full of everything we had fought for. Claire wasn't just my neighbor anymore. She was my forbidden desire, my dangerous addiction, and, in the end, the love of my life. Because sometimes love doesn't come crashing into your world with fireworks and grand gestures. Sometimes it's just across the hall, waiting for you to be brave enough to open the door.